it degrades air cover, it degrades rotary wing, fixed wing, it degrades your ability to fire indirect fires, rocket and cannon artillery accurately, because the MET data is complicated. Are the Russians actually inputting MET and when they're building a firing solution for their rocket and cannon artillery? Probably not. They're not disciplined enough to zero their dang rifle. Are they disciplined enough to actually fire their artillery systems correctly to most accurate data in them? No. And because that data is complicated, it complicates the firing solution. So it's degrading anything they're flying through the sky, anything they're shooting through the sky at a high ordinate. So all that really for the next week is going to benefit Ukrainian defenders. And I think it's a really good thing that the Marine Brigade and Azov have linked up, because now they can build mutually supporting fires, right? Which is something that really hasn't happened to this point, right? Because about 48 hours ago when they started linking up, and I saw the commanders' video together. Now they can actually start to build an integrated defense and coordinate sectors of fire and coordinate movements within those two units. And that's only going to continue to benefit the Ukrainian defense. But as you've also talked through here, what complicates this is resupply. And I understand the messaging from a unit commander perspective, saying we're not getting what we need, but it's also potentially damaging when you put that out in social media and everyone in the world can read it, that you're calling out your strategic leaders, your civilian leadership, right? So I understand it. I'm not saying I haven't done something similar in my military career, because Sam, you know me, and I have a lot.
We've all done it. We've all done
right?
it.
We've all done something like this. And are you really achieving the effect that you want by doing this, or are you exacerbating a problem? So without knowing the inner workings and interpersonal relationships there, I can't answer that question. But
I don't blame them. I don't blame them one bit. I'm sure both sides, the Ukrainian leadership, are trying their best, and I'm sure that the soldiers there who are losing friends and comrades daily, commanders there, feel abandoned, and that's a natural feeling, and they should speak their perspective as much as they can get it out, because that's Zelensky said Mariupol is the beating heart of Ukraine, and if it stops beating, that's going to drain us a lot. So Zelensky's comment really made me feel like there's something in the works, and I don't know what. But Glenn, I think you brought up some interesting points about movement south, and that actually brings us to the next point, which the main topic of the show is the equipment is starting to flood in from the west, and where is that best redeployed when these armored personnel carriers and tanks from the Czech Republic and Poland get in, the armored personnel carriers from America, the 155 howitzers they're sending? Where do you put it? Because it's clear Russia's trying to reconstitute combat power, as we discussed, and that's not going as quickly as obviously Putin wants it. And there's a window of opportunity to strike. Do you take the bold move and strike in the south, or do you take the more, let's call it, conservative move and reinforce the Donbass in the east? Because the south could be a real knockout blow for Russia, as you pointed out, Glenn. And that's, what do we do with this? What does Ukraine, do with this equipment that's coming in? And, what are the priorities of troop allocation, equipment allocation?
It's a good question. I think that the sort of the priorities for the sort of armored equipment, it's more important to give new equipment to people that can handle it than it is to worry about which part of the battlefield it goes to, because it. And that's a judgment about which brigade has kept its most coherence and has got maintenance and has got has got, people of quality. And that would be a big concern for me as a commander, is knowing which brigade is actually ready for it. Because I mean, if you're a brigade that's taken in a whole load of policemen, border guards, special forces, recently joined civilians, to add to your numbers, then you're not ready to take any modern equipment at all, and you need to stay pretty much light infantry with the equipment that you've got. So this is going to be a big question. I mean, probably at the moment the best brigade that's ready for it will be 28 Brigade, but that's down south and it's already in combat. Because they've always been good at maintenance and movement. It's something they've done a lot of. So this is a real problem for them. I mean, how do you reconstitute people with that equipment? If you give it to a territorial brigade, you've got a whole load of new training to do for people who aren't even battle ready. So I mean, it's history. History does not have good lessons for things like that. It takes people a long time to actually to do it. I mean, it took people a long time to do these things with simple equipment. But if you're starting to talk about modern artillery and things like that, you need to really to give it to the guys that already know what they're doing. Of all of those things, artillery is probably the easiest to change because the guys are not actually on the front line. You can take a new gun, you can park it next to the old one, and let the guys play with it for a couple of hours, whilst they're still jumping back and firing off the other gun. And then when they say they're ready, you take the old gun away and give it to some new people. But you still need training teams. Where are those training teams going to come? Are they going to pull people out and take them back to Poland so they can get trained in Poland? I have no idea. This is I'm going to say this is a nightmare for the general staff. Frankly, it's a nightmare for anybody that's actually got to reconstitute.
Yeah, it's a problem.
It's a problem, and even more sensible might be to pull out all those foreign soldiers that they've got and put them into some of the new equipment, because lots of those guys will have been in this new equipment or have been in the environment of equipment like that. And they'll be quite happy getting into an armored vehicle, because it won't be their first one. It'll be their third or fourth one. So they'll know what all the bits are. They'll understand how you make it work. So this is what I would class it's almost like a manpower problem. Big time, a manpower problem, big time. And they're going to have to do something, and they're going to have to do it quickly, because otherwise the equipment will just not have the value for the battlefield that they want. Dave, what do you think?
New equipment always poses an issue, and I don't care what army it is. When I went from the M1A1 to the M1A2 variant of the Abrams tank, there's a significant learning curve. And it took me a couple of weeks as a fairly educated guy to understand the changes in the fire control system and the onboard embedded diagnostic systems and some minor changes to the power plant to really be able to effectively command that tank, to employ the formation as a commander. And that's a first world American Army problem. It took a couple weeks to do that, and that's out of contact, right? So doing it in contact, is adds a level of complexity. Obviously, the unit training on fielding the new equipment's not doing it in contact, but the general staff is in contact, right? And it's just one more thing you're putting on them to do this. The other thing that really I'm concerned with is with the influx of large quantities of equipment is the maintenance and logistics that goes to support this influx, right? You can't just give me an APC. You can't give me an MI-17. I need the whole apparatus that comes along with it, and I need to be able to take that logistics train from the end user using that piece of kit in combat with the enemy back through echelons of command and logistics and sustainment and depot and repair. And I'm concerned that it's too much end item and not enough of the logistics train that's really going to be needed.
Yeah.